Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for episode 14 of Just Take 3 with me, Andrew Musgrave.
Me, Sam Mulliner, you sound worse this week than you did last week. You were even slowing down to enunciate to try and hide it.
Yeah, it's never ending, this illness. I mean, we've had a write-off of a month. I think the little one's gone to nursery about 4 times out of the 20-odd days she's meant to be in, bless her. And I've still not managed to pass away this cold. But I tell you what, Sam, you're not exactly looking rosy either. I think this is a good kind of example of two dads feeling the weight of parenthood.
It's the time of year, I think. The clocks have gone back, and yeah, there's tiredness setting in those early evenings now. The fire's getting lit, and yeah, it's everyone's a bit stuffy.
Yeah, my little one's now getting up religiously at 6 a.m. every single morning. I can guarantee when she's well enough to go back to nursery next week, she'll be lying in at 7:30, 8 o'clock, which is just
Yeah,
sod's law. But hey,
yeah.
what can you do?
Well, Celebi.
I'm looking at a very new, well, not a very new tracksuit as in you've just bought it, but a new tracksuit that you're wearing, nice little fleece number that I've not seen before. And I
You
think our
have seen.
listeners like it
God.
when we give an update. I've not seen this one before.
I've had this years. It's a Puma one for crying out loud. So this is well old.
Is
This
it proper fleecy?
predates. Uh, yeah. Well, no, it zips all the way down. But
Embroidered badge?
yes, yes, yeah. It's nice. I mean, Puma were maligned a little bit, but I don't think the sponsors on their stuff help the cause. But yeah, obviously this is just a normal top with a Puma badge and the club crest on. So it's all right. It's just the black little zip up thing. It's standard, but it's simple yet effective.
I was just about to use that phrase, my favourite phrase when it comes to Newcastle United kit or training gear. We're on episode 14, as I mentioned there, and we've got the category of one-hit wonders. Sam, would you like to try and define the category as you picked it?
Well, yes, I titled it that, as you rightly say, they're one-hit wonders. It's basically players that are either or managers, I suppose, that but I've picked all players, spoiler alert, that are just remembered for one moment, or who were only here for one season, and it was vaguely memorable. So yeah, one-hit wonders, I've
There we
called them.
go. I want you guys to get in the comments and let me know about your opinion on our takes of one-hit wonders, or if you've missed anybody else. Is there someone else you would choose to be your one-hit wonder? The premise is very simple. Me and Sam have crash landed on separate desert islands, and we somehow have the ability to watch back certain Newcastle United highlight reels of players, of managers, of moments, of whatever we've been choosing over the last 14 weeks. And today's category, as I say, is one-hit wonders. This episode is brought to you by NORD VPN, and we've got a very special discount offer for our viewers and listeners, and you really want to take this up, head over to nordvpn.com/tune, and our link will give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box. And as I say every single episode, I really do recommend you guys get this product. It just gives you that added extra bit of protection when you're out and about. And there's a host of other benefits as well. Like changing your location so you can potentially pick up a bargain if you're going to book a hotel or a flight in another country. Or if you're over there and you still want to catch your favorite British shows, you can change it to the UK and never miss your favorite British show. So there, loads of benefits, and it's a premium cyber security for the price of a cup of coffee per month. And that sounds like an absolute bargain to me. Thank you to everyone who's taken up the offer. The numbers have been really encouraging, and you're helping to support the podcast while also protecting yourselves from the villains out there who might want to hack into your system. So hit that link and help support the podcast. Sam, I'm going to let you go first because I'm in a nice, kind mood.
Just before we move on, yeah, any Nord bigwigs watching, I am available for freebies. Just like to throw that out there as a regular podcast guest. Yeah, hit me up. Anyway, first one is a chap we've just whose name has arisen on a couple of episodes of this series. Sylvain Distin.
Okay.
One season of relative brilliance for under Sir Bobby Robson. And the deal was not made permanent. And to this day, I'm still left scratching my head as to why that is. And he went on to have a brilliant Premier League career with Manchester City, with Everton, in Bournemouth when he was approaching 40. He was still doing the business on the pitch in the Premier League. So, speaking to Nick Ostabazas the other week, he said, he was probably the best he'd played with during his time at Newcastle, and I just find it utterly bizarre that it was just a one-season thing. And it was not even. Well, I don't know if it was attempted to be made permanent or not, but it didn't happen either way. So it's an odd one.
Yeah, 469 appearances in the Premier League, 7 goals. He became, as you say, a kind of a Premier League, regular fixture, wasn't he? One of those defenders, which I think a lot of people would have had in their fantasy football team because he was good in the air, had a bit of speed about him, good in the tackle, and he was just an all-round very good defender. I seem to remember at that time there was quite a few of those deals that maybe didn't get done. I always look back on Louis Sahar as well. I know he didn't set the world alight at Newcastle United, but obviously he had something about him, and that deal never got done. And he went on to play for Fulham, Man United, Tottenham, and scored a boatload of goals. And I know there was 4 or 5 years between the two, or maybe 3 or 4. But there was some deals like that where you look back and think, did Newcastle United miss a trick there? And they certainly did with Sylvain Distin, I think. You just remember watching them in that one season under Sir Bobby, and he looked really, really good. So it was no surprise when he went off to Man City, I think it was.
Yeah, but all right, he went off to Man City, which for any children watching kind of makes sense. But at the time, Man City had just been promoted back to the Premier League. They were relative nobodies, really. They weren't challenging for the title and top 4 like we were. And no disrespect to the likes of Nikos and Andy O'Brien and whoever, but I think we would have been all the stronger had we have kept Sylvain Distin around, because he was pretty much the exact type of player that we were lacking until we signed Woodgate.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Keegan was the manager of City, actually, wasn't he?
Yeah,
at
he was.
that time. And I agree. I think when you look back on, we've done categories about those who we wish maybe had stayed a little bit longer. Distin is up there because you do think, what would have happened had he signed for Newcastle United and stayed for 4 or 5 years? He would have, by the stats he actually got, he would have had a load of appearances under his belt, maybe even, challenging some of the top names in that list, the likes of Shea Given and Frank Clark, given that he seemed to be a man who had no injury concerns whatsoever. A real shame he didn't sign. He cost Man City £4 million from PSG. It was a club record for a
Exactly.
defender.
So how we're looking 4 million to have made that deal permanent. Surely it was a no-brainer.
Well, according to this report I'm reading now, Newcastle had been favourites to sign him, but they just couldn't get the deal over the line. And Distin came in as a replacement for Stuart Pearce. So there you go. Even though Pearce was more of a fullback, right? I'm not really sure what that report's saying, but there you go. Apparently, there was also interest from Blackburn Rovers and Olympiacos, but Keegan's determination and charisma helped put his newly promoted side in the driving seat.
Yeah.
So there you go. KK stinging Newcastle and beating them to the signature of PSG. There's also a report, though, which describes Distin, and he's not here to defend himself, I will just say that, as a mercenary. Mercenary Distin, according to The Guardian, signs for Man City. And Freddie Shepherd is quoted here. Oh, I always love a good quote from Freddie Shepherd, saying, when we brought him to England, no club was interested in him. We agreed a fee with PSG, and the agreement was that we had first refusal on him. We were aware that there were 1 or 2 clubs had been alerted to his ability to his ability, and we were prepared to pay silly money to lure him away from Newcastle. That's when his agent got involved. We made him a very generous offer. We weren't going to be held to ransom. The prospect of playing in the Champions League with a club established in the top four of the Premiership was enough to convince top internationals, Kieran Dyer and Shea Given, that it was in their best to contract themselves long term. No disrespect to Man City, but they are a newly promoted club whose first job is to avoid relegation. Distin has turned his back on the elite European competition, and the reason is purely mercenary.
Interesting. Interesting.
Boom.
So
Oh.
it would seem it definitely came from the players' side of things then.
Quoting to Freddie
But,
Shepherd there.
Yeah, I mean he wasn't one to exaggerate, was he? Yeah.
Again, not here to defend himself, I'll just say that. But there's an interesting comment here from Man City's director of football, and it's Dennis Stewart. You recognise the name?
Yes, but I don't know why.
Oh, well, for our younger listeners and older colleagues, Dennis Stewart was a Geordie who scored in the League Cup final in the 70s against Newcastle United with a tremendous bicycle kick and won the final for City and left Newcastle United devastated. It was the last, obviously, League Cup final before that one against Manchester United a couple of years back. But yeah, it was a Geordie who broke Newcastle United hearts with a tremendous goal at Wembley. And then he ended up being director of football at City. A proper good goal scorer by all accounts as well. But he says here, when it became clear that Newcastle were not going to take up their option on the player, Kevin moved very quickly, and we are delighted to have Sylvain on board. He's a powerful, quick athlete who has already proved himself at the highest level. What is vitally important too is the strategy for team building is that he's a left-sided central defender who is a like-for-like swap for Stuart Pearce, who has now, of course, retired. So there you go. He's describing there exactly why they signed him. Powerful, quick. And that's exactly what Newcastle United could have had, perhaps should have had. But then again, you say, do we want to be held to ransom? We don't know what actually happened, but maybe it was the best case not to be held to ransom, although, as we say, given his stats, maybe not.
Yeah, I think mercenary was probably a bit of Freddie Shepherd rhetoric there, but because he stayed at City years, he stayed at Everton for years as well, and then Bournemouth. I mean, if he were a mercenary, would he have signed for Bournemouth, or would he have gone to China at the time, or one of these foreign leagues that will pay huge sums of money for someone like him? You look at someone like Chris Samba, who went and was a proper mercenary with signing for QPR, and he went to Russia, didn't he, for a bit, and took the money there. And I think mercenary is probably a bit strong when it comes to Sylvain Distin. I think we should have just paid up, but it's all in the echelons of history now.
It is, and that's why it fits perfectly into this category. Right, my first pick is Kenedy, the former Chelsea winger. And I remember when he finally arrived on Tyneside in the January of 2018, because we all thought he was going to sign in the summer of 2017, and that deal fell through. And there was real disappointment because he was just an exciting young talent who hadn't really got the opportunity at Chelsea. He was kind of one of those that was at a crossroads, and you felt under Rafa Benitez, he would find his way. And then when he finally got the deal in the January, I was really excited, and he started so strongly in Newcastle United in those first few months. Impressed on his debut, set up Jamal Lascelles for a goal against Burnley in a 1-1 draw. He then had a belter of a game against Southampton, a 3-0 win where he scored a brace. And I always remember the cross as well against Huddersfield for Iosi Perez 10 minutes before time. And he had a really strong start to his time on Tyneside in those, 5 months he would have had in that season to impress. And Newcastle United, some of Newcastle United wanted to sign him permanently, but the board and maybe Rafa Benitez weren't too keen on it. And that turned out in hindsight. Go on.
20 mil, I believe, was the asking price.
Yeah, the asking price was huge. And maybe in hindsight, it was the right decision. And they wanted just to see what he could do with a full season under his belt. And it's fair to say it didn't work at all. He was very, very poor in that first full season he had before he then went back to Chelsea and off on loan to various other places. But I just remember those first few months, he was absolutely electric. And we know we've got a place in our hearts for these exciting, eccentric wingers. but he had some real talent about him. I mean, he had a wonderful left foot, and again, it's one of those where you could put him into several categories, like, what could have been, a wasted career, because alongside the likes of maybe Hatton Ben Arfa, you just think if you just had maybe the right mentor, or if you just had your head screwed on a little bit and realized the talent you had in your feet, but with the right mindset, you could have been an absolute baller. But unfortunately, we look back and just think, what a wasted opportunity. But, those first few months certainly left me very excited. And I remember actually, Sam, I don't know about you, feeling a little bit frustrated that they didn't sign him permanently and going, why haven't you signed him more? Typical Mike Ashley. Like we say, in hindsight, it was the right decision.
Oh, wasn't it just that penalty miss against Cardiff? Wasn't it? It was unfortunately the one that sticks in my mind. But yeah, that set him on the way to a pretty rapid downward spiral. But you're right. When he first came in the January, wasn't it? He gave everyone a huge lift, and that home performance against Southampton that you mentioned there was really vital, and it was one of them ones that really helped us to stay well clear of the relegation places that season. And we ended up finishing 10th, didn't we?
Yeah.
Remarkable. Out of nowhere for our first season back in the Premier League, that win over Chelsea on the final day saw us finish 10th. Crazy, and he was a big part of that. He did just push everyone on to that extra level to kick on and steer well clear of the relegation places. But yeah, I think I can't remember for sure, but yeah, I was pretty keen on signing him. It sounds like something I would be keen on. But yeah, I'm glad we didn't.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be saying, I'm glad that we didn't. But that was a strange time as well, because there was a few loan deals where you left scratching your head. And Antonio Barreca was another one, and he never even featured for Newcastle United.
One appearance at Wembley.
Yeah, well, and you had Salomon Rondon as well, which actually was a very good signing. And then there was frustration that Newcastle United didn't follow it up with a permanent signing. But again, he didn't go on to set the
Might
world
just
alight
be talking
afterwards.
about him later.
Oh, is he on your list, is he?
Well, he was. No, he is.
Well,
Yeah.
that appears the perfect segue then into Mr. Salomon Rondon. Would you like to take it up from here?
Well, just wrap up on Kenedy. Good start, rubbish finish.
Perfect.
And just paled into insignificance has his career, hasn't it? Where do we even know where he is now?
I'll have a little Google, but I think, did he go back to? I think he went to somewhere in Spain. Then I've got a feeling he went to Brazil, and then he's maybe
I
back
have
in
a
Spain.
feeling he had a loan stint at Reading.
No, he didn't. He had a loan spell at Watford where he appeared once. That was before he joined
Watford.
Newcastle. He then went to Getafe in Spain, and then Granada, and then Flamengo in Brazil, and now he's at Valladolid in Spain, where he's played
Valladolid.
41 times in the last 2 seasons. So, I mean, look, his stats aren't great at all. And look, it's easy for us to say they'll look back and think, oh, what a waste of my career. But when you're earning hundreds of thousands of pounds every year, millions of pounds every year, maybe they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure he'll be quite satisfied with himself. But yeah, like you say, there was a lot of those deals around that time in the latter years of Mike Ashley. Oh, it's nice saying that. The latter years of Mike Ashley, which is now very much in the past, particularly under Rafa, where loan deals were highly prominent, and under Steve Bruce as well. I remember Jetro Willems and who sadly got injured, or he may well have been on this list as well. Danny Rose, who then later came in to replace Willems. But yeah, Rondon, I thought, was a superb piece of business for both clubs, really, because obviously it involved Dwight Gale being loaned back in the opposite direction to West Brom, who had gone down to the Championship, which just makes the deal just made total and utter sense for all parties. Rondon, very much a Premier League player. Dwight Gale, very much a Championship player, will always score goals in that league. And it was a perfect deal for all parties. Rondon, I remember watching him for Malaga, actually. I couldn't believe at the time West Brom signed him. I was stunned and staggered that no one bigger had come in for him, because this big powerhouse of a striker who could score goals was just left to join the Baggies. I found that quite bizarre, but a massive coup for them. And when we got him, obviously, there was issues getting him fit, trying to keep him fit, showed glimpses with that goal at Forest. But yeah, when we got him fit, he was absolutely superb, and his goals were crucial. He was so strong. I remember being at Wolves away one night. It was the night where Hayden scored. I mentioned it last week. The night when Hayden scored, and then they equalised in stoppage time, which no way was it a goal in the days of VAR now. But they would shove 2 men on him, and Rondon had still come away with the ball. It was just strength and skill, and the system we played when we reverted to a back three with wing backs as well. It would be very easy, as we saw a couple of seasons after with Joe Linton, for a striker to look very isolated and just not be in the game. But Rondon suited that perfectly, with Perez just off him, and then latterly when Almiron came in as well, that was an exciting front three potentially going forward for where we were at the time. But yeah, just great aerial ability. Yeah, some of the goals he scored were just sheer brute force as well, and mightily important the night we beat Man City, and yeah, getting us back into that one. And yeah, tremendous header of the ball. Who was it? Was it was it against Bournemouth? Cross came in, Bosch, header at the front post, powerful top corner. Yeah, loved Rondon, and it was a shame we never got him on a permanent, actually. But going again, using the mercenary word, going off to China with Rafa, and then obviously his career went downhill again after he left Newcastle. Really, going to China and then coming back with Everton didn't really show anything like his previous form. But he was fantastic for us, and a real one-season wonder kind of thing. Hence the one-hit wonder tag.
Yeah, like you say, his ability and with the ball at his feet, with the strength he's got, and in the air as well. It was a joy to see, because we'd really kind of lacked that proper out and out centre forward for many a year, I felt, and he just came in and just blew everyone away. I don't know if there was a universal kind of welcoming of him, and then obviously you mentioned his fitness issues as well. So he started really on the back foot, but he soon caught up. He scored 11 goals and 32 appearances, and then, as you say, went off to China. He's currently he's played for River Plate, and then he's playing for Pacu, which is in where we are, in Mexican club Pacu. So he's still banging the goals at 35. But yeah, the time in Everton didn't go very well at all. He got a lot of stick, but I look back on his time at Newcastle with a lot of joy, because he scored some important goals. One against Everton as well, that performance when they came back. And just, it was just a joy to watch, wasn't he?
Yeah, the comeback against Everton again was another memorable game for him. Like I say, I remember seeing him play for Malaga. Seeing as though you've got his record there in front of you, what was his record like for Malaga? Because Malaga had a bit of investment at the time. Obviously, didn't last very long, but I seem to remember him being like an absolute beast for them.
He scored 25 goals in 67 games, which is a
That's
decent
good.
record. He then went off to the Russian Premier League with Rubin Kazan and scored 25 and 56. Then went to St. Petersburg and scored 28 and 58 before moving to West Brom, where he scored 28 and 120 appearances in all competitions. So a very decent record. And yeah, he's probably one of those strikers where you look around and you think, is he a striker that a top club maybe could have taken a bit of a gamble on? Because you get those kind of strikers, don't you, which do very well for kind of mid-table Premier League teams or lower level European clubs, and then you get to the end of the career and you think, oh, could he have done a job maybe in an Arsenal side or a Chelsea side? Who knows? But he did a job at Newcastle United in that season. Yeah, gutted that they didn't sign him because we all wanted him to, and whether it was the fee or the wage, and then obviously China comes in with all the money, and he didn't turn that down. I'm just watching some of his highlights reels here. I mean, he scored a wonderful free kick against Bournemouth. Obviously scored in that game against Everton that we're talking about. You mentioned the game against City as well. Just some really important goals, but some really nice goals as well. And he's just one of those strikers where you felt if he put the ball into the box, he was going to win the header or he was going to get a shot on target. But also, if you put the ball over the top of him or you wanted him to make the run through the channels, he was there as well. He had it all, really.
Yeah, I don't understand why that deal wasn't done as well, because the money was there. Because we signed Joe Linton, didn't we, for 40 mil? And Dwight Gale could have been used as a make weight to making that deal permanent as well to West Brom, who obviously came back to us. So yeah, it was a very strange one, wasn't it? But that was it was a strange time, wasn't it? Really.
Did I'm not mistaken though? Did Benitez not leave? When did Benitez leave? Did he leave? Yeah, he left at the end of that
Same
season,
time as
didn't he?
Rondon, yeah.
So there we go. And Rondon came to Newcastle United, but it was very much Rafa banging on the door of the owner saying, "Sign this fella." And then the owners didn't want to do it. Mike actually didn't want to sanction it. Rafa won that battle, so that gives you a bit of an insight into why maybe it wasn't made permanently. He was Rafa's pick, so maybe the next manager, of course, was Steve Bruce, who I think he would have done well under Steve. Under Steve Bruce, I think he would have scored goals for Newcastle United. But
we played the same, so yeah, he would have done well.
But Bruce was maybe never going to bang on the door and force that move to happen. And obviously, like you say, they got Joe Linton. But with Rafa leaving, going to China, he's very complimentary about Rafa, saying he improved my all-round game. And obviously, you can see the relationship they had because then he goes to Everton with him as well. So Rafa going probably put pay to any permanent move. But yeah, one of those which I do really wish Newcastle had made permanent because he was an absolute joy to watch. My second pick is Fabrice Pancrate. Is he your third?
I knew you would pick him.
Is he your third pick?
No.
No, okay.
Because I knew you would pick Pancrate just for that one, because it's kind of the epitome of the definition of what we're doing right now, and I knew you couldn't resist Pancrate.
Good old Pancrate. I mean, that was a tremendous season. I only missed one game that season at St James's Park because I had to work in good old Debenhams. I worked in the cafe and I managed to organise it so every home game I would get to, but they wouldn't let us go to the win against Barnsley when Jonas Gutierrez finally got his Spider-Man mask out. Finally. And I missed it. Still not over it. But anyway, Fabrice Pancrate comes in November 2009, free agent after 5 years at PSG, 95 appearances, 10 goals. And again, for our younger listeners, this is a PSG side, which isn't really anything special at this time. Not the world class club you see now, although Newcastle did beat them 4-1 last season. Let's not forget that anyway. But yeah, signs on a free. And he didn't set the world alight at all. So much so that they went and signed Wayne Routledge not that long after, which says all you need to know really about how much he impressed probably on and off the pitch. But he did have that moment against Watford, that tremendous goal against Watford at St James's Park, where he does a little bit of a scissors, a little bit drop of the shoulder, and just boom, the ball in off the bar. What a fantastic strike. A moment of magic, which I think every Newcastle United fan who was there, who saw it on TV, will remember. And like you say, when you ask for one-hit wonders, he's probably the man that springs to mind quickest because of that goal. And it was a tremendous strike. He didn't do too much else afterwards. He got 2 assists for Ryan Taylor, one against Coventry, one against Preston North End. But it's not a bad thing to have on your CV, I guess. He'd be welcomed back on Tyneside just for that goal alone, right?
Yeah, it's probably the only thing people. I mean, you say he got 2 assists there. I didn't know he got them. All I remember is that goal against Watford. Where did he go after that? Because he was. It just feels like after that moment, he was never to be seen ever again. Such as his is just a complete myth.
Yeah, he went to AEL, which off the top of my head is a Greek side known as Larissa, yeah.
Yeah,
And then he
Larissa.
went off to Nantes in the French leagues, and he played 60 times for them and got 10 goals. So he had a bit of, a good lend to his career. He retired in 2014. I think he's on the kind of the pundit circuit now, if I'm not mistaken.
Is he
I
really?
think so. I think he's on the French circuit. But yeah, look, like I say, he's not remembered for anything other than that goal against Watford. But if that's what you take away from 16 appearances, and I'm sure he would take that.
16?
16. 16 appearances.
I thought he made like 3.
Yeah, so did I. But this is research. This is research. This is the real deal. But yeah, 16 appearances. And actually that goal against Watford, Newcastle had 10 men in
Yes.
that game, extended their lead at the top of the championship to 4 points. And the report that I'm reading describes it as a spirited Watford team that Newcastle managed to get the win over. Do you know who was sent off from that game? Testing your knowledge here.
Alan Smith?
No, it was Kevin Nolan for a second yellow card. So he was sent off just after the half time, 49 minutes on the clock. And it was an 83rd minute strike from Fabrice Pancrate that sealed the win. And like I say, it's definitely one of those that will, well, obviously what are we now? 10, 12 years? How long are we? 2009. So yeah, God, we're a long time afterwards and we're still talking about it. But
Yeah.
probably the definition of a one-hit wonder, most certainly.
Yeah. I know. Will he be there opening the club shop against Chelsea this evening at the time of recording? I hope so. I mean, I doubt it, but I hope so.
Do you know what though? I know you're being jovial, but I genuinely like if he was welcome, if he came back and was a special guest at the club, I
He
think
could
people would.
walk down the street and nobody would know who he was.
Nah, I don't know. I don't know, but maybe. But then if people said this is Fabrice Pancrate, and they go, "Oh, that goal against Watford," and then I think people would want to talk to him and would want to have a little bit of a selfie with him and all that, just because the goal was that good.
Yeah. Oh, don't dispute that whatsoever. It was an
I
amazing
mean,
goal.
if you think about it, and you'll probably prove me wrong here, but if I ask you for a goal in terms of pure quality that was scored that season, not in terms of like what it meant in the moment, so discount Jose Enrique's goal against Forest because that was special, but in terms of the best goal that season, can you think of another one? I think
I
Gutierrez
mean,
maybe.
Gutierrez had a couple where he'd cut from
Yeah.
the inside and launch one, but again, that's just a long shot. In terms of having to do what Pancrat had to do there, yeah, maybe you're right.
So there you go. Down in history is probably the
Ryan
greatest goal
Taylor
in
as
that
well had a
championship
couple.
season. Fabrice Pancrate. I'm surprised you didn't pick him. I'm surprised.
I didn't pick him because I knew you would.
All right. Goodness me. Come on then. Your third and final pick.
Andros Townsend.
Hello. Oh, do you know what? It didn't even come to my way of thinking, but I already agree with you. I'm
Oh,
sold.
when he scored that free kick against Palace, I thought we were staying up. Oh, I thought we were going to stay up, and then especially after Darlow saving that penalty as well from who was it from? So someone relatively well known around those here parts.
Go on.
Kabay for Palace.
Oh yeah. Now you mention it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he want to miss? Did he want to miss? It's always
I think
the drop in
so.
it.
I think so. And then Shelvey rubbing it in his face afterwards. But yeah, we were in such dire straits, and he and Shelvey were brought in the January, weren't they, for about 12 mil a piece. Again, still under Steve McLaren at that time. He hadn't been dispatched of yet. But yeah, he was an absolute threat down our right hand side, cutting in, scored some goals. Some meant more than others. Yeah, we got battered away at Southampton one night, and Andros still cut in from the right and buried one in the bottom corner. Yeah, it was only 6 months he had because I think it might have been Shelvey might have been 12, Andros Townsend might have been 14 mil, but his relegation release clause was for the same price as what we'd paid for him So obviously when we went down and there was outcry of wanting him to stay, but he was very clear he wanted to remain in the Premier League and try and get into the England squad. So he went to Palace under Big Sam, and things didn't really go well for him at all. He didn't get back in the England fold. It was only until Allardyce had left that he really rejuvenated himself at Palace, but he didn't have a good start there at all. I remember thinking at the time he really should have stayed with us. But then again, would we have had Matt Ritchie if he did stay? But yeah, when he, as I say, when he scored that that amazing free kick against Crystal Palace, what a hit, by the way. But yeah, when we won that game, I thought, God, we're gonna do this. We're gonna stay up. But there was some frustrating results after that. We couldn't really kick on. But yeah, Townsend was brilliant for us.
Yeah, I mean, the image from that game is the celebration, the proper passion in his face. There's a lovely image as well of like a Newcastle United crest on a flag behind him as he's celebrating. But yeah, tremendous player. Again, we love wingers. We just love attacking wingers who've got one thing in their mind: get the ball, running at defenders, cutting inside and shooting. And he was such a good signing. And yeah, you can't help but think what might have been both if he'd stayed when Newcastle went down, and if Newcastle had stayed up, because he had such talent, really, really quick, good eye for a goal, could pick a pass. And I was good when he left, but you couldn't begrudge him leaving because he had aspirations of getting into the England squad, playing in the Premier League, and Newcastle United had to deal with the mess of relegation. So what came their way came their way. But yeah, a tremendous player. I seem to remember him playing well against Tottenham on the last day of that season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, everyone played well that day, even with 10 men. But yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right with the kind of what might have been aspect of it, but yeah, he was brilliant for us for 6 months, wasn't he? And yes, there was a lot of uncertainty around that time, let alone with Rafa, will he stay, will he walk, kind of thing as well. So again, it was one of them. Like you say, you couldn't really blame him for not wanting to stay because of that uncertain future that lay ahead of us. I mean, we didn't know what the hell was going to happen, and it could have turned out very, very differently indeed. But yeah, we did all right out of it in the end, obviously, because Matt Ritchie's just an absolute cult hero, who essentially was his replacement. But yeah, Andros Townsend did have that extra bit of quality. Yeah, it's just a shame because I would argue as well things didn't really work out for him either.
No, like you said, it was kind of stop-start at Palace. And then he went to Everton, and he was kind of lumped in with Rondon as one of those, what are we doing kind of
Yeah, a bit
signings, which I
harsh.
really unfair. And then he went to Luton, had a decent enough campaign last season, but
Scored against us.
yeah, and he went into the punditry game, didn't he? Yeah, he was on Five Live quite a lot and a few TV appearances. He's now playing in the Turkish Super League. Obviously nearing the kind of end of his career. How old is he? I'm going to make a guess. 34, is he? Let me have a little check. He's 33. Oh, he's born just 4 days after I am. There you go.
Well,
But yeah, so yeah, it's just another one of those players where you think absolute brilliant talent. We didn't see enough of him in black and white, but hey ho, that's football, isn't it?
yeah, 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 just that feeling of the old it's the hope that kills you. That epitomised that time
Well,
around.
it was like when we went down under Shearer, I think we've spoken about it before. That game against Middlesbrough is still one of the finest moments I've experienced at St James's Park. I think it's probably only the third time I've ever sat in the East Stand, but it's a night that stays with me because of just the atmosphere within the ground, and we all thought we were staying up after that. We really, really
Should have
did, and
done.
obviously it backfired, and it didn't happen. And that again is a bit like that moment against Crystal Palace under Rafa Benitez. Right, would you like my third and final pick, Samuel?
Yes, please.
Been a little bit cheeky. It's not a solo player, but it is definitely a one-hit wonder. And it is the partnership of Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand.
Oh God, talk about bending the rules.
I think it is perfectly applicable. We had
Yeah,
one
I'll
season.
go on then. I'll give it you because
Thank you.
it is an absolute crime against football. This.
So we had one season of two of the finest strikers ever to play in the Premier League, Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand. Les Ferdinand had won the number 9 shirt the season before and scored a boatload of goals. Alan Shearer, of course, won the Premier League with Blackburn and then joined Newcastle in the summer of 1996 for a world record fee of £15 million. Ferdinand was persuaded by Kevin Keegan to give up the number 9 shirt for Alan Shearer and did so. Didn't kick off. A perfect gentleman. I love that. That's the first takeaway. How many players as good as Les Ferdinand would say, do you know what? Fine, he can have it and just get on with the job. And look what happened in that season. 28 goals for Shearer, 21 goals for Les Ferdinand. Absolutely electric together. And it's such a shame that come the summer of 97, as Kenny Dalglish was trying to build his own squad, Les Ferdinand is pushed down the road to Tottenham. Shearer then gets injured. He's then on the phone to Les, trying to persuade him to come back. And quite rightly, Les Ferdinand tells him where to stick it because he's been treated abysmally, shockingly. And that's the end of his career. And, you know, it would have been good to see another couple of seasons of those two playing together. Such a shame it didn't happen because, I mean, we talk about partnerships in the Premier League, and when we talk about them, there are a few better, really, of strikers that you can think of. Cole and Sheringham, who hated each other but were brilliant together. Cole and Beardsley, fantastic in Newcastle United.
Cole
But
and
you think,
York.
yeah, well, yeah, there's another one. But I mean,
Any others with Andy Cole in?
well, he was fantastic, wasn't he? But Ferdinand and Shearer together? Ooh, I mean, are there any better partnerships up top that we can think of, really? I know you can say Sheringham and Cole because of the honours they won, but in terms of chemistry and the goals scored, might be the best ever partnership, to be honest.
Yeah, they were absolutely unbelievable, weren't they? Two brute force powerhouses, but obviously Shearer still had a yard of pace about him then as well, which people can forget that he was nippy in his day, and yeah, it just worked an absolute treat. They should have maybe even got the chance to do it at international level together as well. I can only think of one time that they actually started a game together. I think it was a qualifier against Poland. But obviously Sheringham had very much had the number 10 shirt for keeps then under Venables in particular, and then obviously Michael Owen emerged. But the less is said about him, the better. He's still very much in the bin. But yeah, it's just such a shame. It's that's what it is. It's a shame. I would have loved to have seen them have a go in the Champions League together. I'd have loved to have seen them pair, you know, start in them FA Cup finals. Yeah. What
Well,
again?
we
What could
spoke
have
about
been?
before, haven't we, about Ferdinand and how it was just criminal that Newcastle United moved him on, and his record after leaving Newcastle United, you know, he scored 33 times for Tottenham and went on to play obviously for Leicester as well, and West Ham. He scored 12 goals in 29 appearances for Leicester City in the 2003-2004 campaign. And how old would he have been then? He was born in 66, so he would have been, do the maths quickly, Sam. Go on.
What? And he played until his very, very late 30s, didn't he? He was
He
still
would have
playing.
been maybe 38, maybe
Yeah.
37, 38, playing for Leicester and scoring
Did he have a
12
stint
goals.
at Bolton as well?
Yeah, after that he did. So he still had goals in him, you know, a good few years after leaving Newcastle United. Yeah, and you just think, what an absolute silly decision that was to let him go. He should have finished his career really on Tyneside, and him and Shearer could have had a good 3 or 4 years together, banging in the goals. And
There would have been a severe lack of pace towards the end.
yes, there would have
there?
been, but you could have offset that, you know, with the signings of others, you know, like we saw
Well,
Bellamy
Bellamy
coming in to
running
help
behind, I
Shearer.
suppose.
But imagine though getting to, you know, 2002, 2000 and then 2001, and then he's still got Les Ferdinand off the bench to come and change things because the stats proved he could do it. So it would have been, you know, a brilliant thing to have, brilliant option to have. But you just had, as you said, you had Shearer with a bit of pace, both brilliant in the air, but Les was better than Shearer in the air, in my opinion. You had the hold-up play of both of them, the strength. They were just on the same wavelength. I mean, remember the Man United thrashing at St James's Park 5-0, and we saw the best of them in that game. But there were other games as well. Did Newcastle United the 7-1 against Tottenham as well? I think they both scored in that game, if I'm not mistaken. But they were just a brilliant partnership, singing off the same hymn sheet. And yeah, it's probably up there with the biggest regret of mine when it comes to Newcastle United. We've got the sliding doors moment that we've done a few weeks ago, and we talk about Sir Bobby not coming in and replacing Keegan. We talk about that summer after finishing in the Champions League under Pardew and only bringing in Vernon and Anita. Very separate and very different kind of scenarios, but I definitely chuck in the sale of Les Ferdinand in the same category as well as just a massive. What were you thinking? What were you doing?
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Just the complete centre forward, wasn't he? It was tough trying to find someone to replace Andy Cole at that time as well. And if we'd have got that, if Keegan had got that wrong, then fans could have easily turned on him. But he got it so right, and Les was absolutely superb for us. And yeah, how long did he spend at Newcastle in total? Two full seasons.
2 full seasons where he scored 50 and 84.
It's ridiculous. I mean,
It is, isn't it?
and he's still. I mean, how many players are classed as a club legend, after only being there for 2 seasons?
Yeah, not many. Certainly not Fabrice
Exactly.
Pancrate after a few months anyway.
Exactly right. So yeah, I agree with your analysis there. It's just an absolute crime against humanity. Those pair only had 1 season together.
And I'm pretty sure that Les Ferdinand has gone on record to say that Alan Shearer was his best partnership of his career. I'm just trying to find the quotes. And yeah, it was probably the best partnership I had. I was really fortunate to play with some great players, Klinsmann, Sheringham, and Beardsley, but the combination between Alan and myself worked really, really well. And there's a lot of people who thought it wouldn't work. We both used to being able to explore different parts of the field. That second year, Alan and I'd been used to playing in a 2. We just said, look, we can make this work. We scored 49 goals in our one and only season together. You'd have to say it was a successful partnership. And I don't think many people would disagree.
No, I apologise in advance because I'm going to sound like Billy Big Bees here. But when we got Les Ferdinand onto my podcast on NFTV with Johnny, I messaged Alan just to say I'm interviewing Les, whatever, such and such. I could probably find the quote because it was via Twitter DM, but he just said, yeah, we had 1 season together, and it was 49 goals in however many games. Look, the stats just speak for themselves. He was just incredible, sort of thing. So yeah, there was that mutual respect the 2 of them had for each other. Les, like you said at the top of the argument, he could have thrown a wobbly at any point, pretty much during them 2 years at Newcastle United. They take his shirt off him, they try and sell him, and then want him back. Les could look back with a bit of disdain at his time at Newcastle, really, because he wasn't treated like a legend. But the guy he is, and the
He's
player
lovely.
he is, and
He's
the
one of the
player he was.
nicest people in football to this day. He's just so lovely, so nice. But then, do you know what? I would say every one of the entertainers that I've met are exactly the same. Like, they're just so down to earth. They're so modest. And I tell you what, the amount of times they get stopped for photographs and autographs when they're up at St James's Park, it could get very, very, very annoying. But they just have time for
They love
absolutely
it.
everyone.
It's why it comes back to this old adage of because not all of them are Geordies, but they get it, and it's that whole point of that character. You get it. That's just not. It's not for everyone. You have to have that right character, that right mentality, and if you have got it, then you'll be loved forever, as so many of these players still very much are.
what I'm going to do with Sam Mullen, I'm going to do a name drop here. Because I did
Ooh.
ask that question to John Beresford a few weeks ago. And I said, does it ever get boring? Like, does it ever get annoying? People coming up and wanting to shake your hand, wanting a photograph, wanting an autograph. He said, no. He said, I absolutely love it. You know, and it's the right thing to do to give people the time of day. And why wouldn't I? And most of the entertainers, you know, go along the same line, and they absolutely do love it. And trust me, they get stopped. I mean, they don't get a moment's freedom when they are at the game. So, you know, to embrace it all these years after is something really special. But coming to you this Christmas, we're going to do a board game, the name drop by Sam Mullen. That seems like would be very successful, right?
You drop more names than me.
I'm sure it'd be flying off the shelves. Let us know in the comments if you want a copy. But that has been episode 14 of Just Take 3 One Hit Wonders. I've enjoyed that, Sam. Did you?
Yeah. Well, I always think my topics are a good idea, so I'm bound to enjoy it.
Well, there we go. And chaps, thank you very much for tuning in. We will be
and chapettes.
And chapettes, we will be coming to you on Sunday morning. So let's get Sam's mystical ball out. He's going to make 2 predictions here. And Newcastle United through to the cup and have they beaten Arsenal?
No.
No to both of them. No. Are they going to have 2 defeats by the time people listen to this?
It's a distinct possibility, isn't it?
Oh my goodness me!
I'm not feeling great about things here, but it is well in our capabilities to win both games. We are at a lull at the moment. We are out of form, and that is it. Players will come back into form, and you know, yes, we're still missing Sven Botman and Callum Wilson, and there's a lot of frustration out there, but there is talent on that pitch, and yeah, we have enough to beat Chelsea and to beat Arsenal. We've done it. We did it last season, for crying out loud.
Yeah, certainly so. At least that episode would have cheered people up before they got to this prediction. But thank you for that, Sam. And thank you to you guys for watching and listening. You know what to do. Give a thumbs up on YouTube. Leave us a rating review on the podcast channel. And make sure you head down to the podcast description box and go to nordvpn.com/tune for your exclusive NordVPN deal. Try it now, risk-free, with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Nord. Tap me up.
Get Sam on board. I'm sure you guys as well will be on board. Thank you very much, and we'll see you guys very soon.